Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a fascinating and honestly kind of uncomfortable psychological trap detailed in Thomas Alethia's work. We're going to unpack a cognitive distortion that quietly, consistently, and powerfully warps how we view our own lives. It's something that happens to absolutely all of us, usually without us even realizing it's going on.
I mean, be honest. Have you ever looked back at a complete surprise event and caught yourself thinking, man, I knew it all along? Maybe it was a sudden plunge in the stock market, a buddy's unexpected breakup, or some crazy election outcome. After the fact, you feel this massive rush of certainty, right? You tell yourself, and probably everyone around you, that the signs were totally obvious. But were they really? This incredibly universal experience of false certainty is exactly what we're tackling today. It's a mental trick that protects our ego, but man, it comes at a huge cost to our actual grip on reality.
So let's start by looking at the illusion of memory and why your brain literally rewrites the past.
To really get this trap, we first have to accept the hard truth. Our brains are basically prediction machines that are constantly guessing, interpreting, and just filling in the blanks. And this brings us to hindsight bias. This is the tendency to falsely believe that past events were super predictable, but only after they've already happened. It's that literal feeling of, I knew it all along, even when you had absolutely zero way of knowing the outcome beforehand. And look, this isn't just some random brain glitch. It's a highly systematic pattern of thought that causes massive judgmental errors in how we navigate the world.
Okay, so here's the core conflict happening inside your head. On one side, you've got objective truth. This is the reality that exists completely independent of you. It's what actually happened back then, which, let's be real, usually included a ton of uncertainty and confusion at the time. But on the flip side, we have subjective truth. This is your revisionist memory. Basically, your current knowledge and your current emotions are actively jumping back in time and reshaping how you remember the event. You end up viewing the past purely through the lens of the present. There's a brilliant quote from Tracy Aff that nails this. Their perception is their reality. When we confuse our reshaped, totally subjective memory with objective truth, we get trapped. Think of it like looking at a map and genuinely believing you're standing on the actual physical territory. Your thoughts and memories, they're just mental models. But when you treat them as rock-solid facts, you completely sever your connection to actual reality and set yourself up for a lot of unnecessary stress. Which leads us directly into the revisionist memory trap and the three distinct stages of this false clarity. So how exactly does our brain manage to alter our recollection like this? Well, it plays out in three specific steps. First, an unpredictable event happens. You launch a new project, you start a relationship, maybe you make an investment. Second, time passes, the outcome actually reveals itself, and your current knowledge and emotions act like a filter over your memory of that initial event. And then, step three, the trap snaps shut. Because you now know how things turned out, you either romanticize your past successes, convincing yourself you were some kind of mastermind who planned the whole shebang perfectly, or you exaggerate your past failures. You beat yourself up, totally forgetting how much effort and genuine uncertainty you were dealing with back then. You literally rewrite the script to fit your current mood. Just think about any major sports game. The second a team loses, there's always that one fan who confidently declares, I knew they were going to lose right from the start. Or, take a business setting. A startup goes under and suddenly everyone says, oh yeah, I saw that coming a mile away. It is so incredibly easy to claim you saw the red flags after the ship has already hit the ocean floor, right? Now, let's talk about the cost of this false clarity and why trusting this perfect memory is actually pretty dangerous. Look, it's super easy to write this bias off as just a quirky little flaw in human nature, but the real-world consequences are actually quite severe. First off, this revisionist memory creates a completely false sense of your own predictive ability. You start trusting your gut way too much because you falsely believe you have a perfect track record. Second, it breeds totally unrealistic comparisons. Third, it causes this deep, painful regret over past mistakes, mostly because your brain is lying to you, saying those mistakes were obvious and you should have known better, even though at the time you literally couldn't have known. And ultimately, all this false clarity, it sets you up to make exceptionally poor decisions moving forward because you stop preparing for uncertainty. You just assume the world is perfectly predictable. Consider this incredibly profound thought from the author Philip K. Dick. He said, reality is that which when you stop believing in it, doesn't go away. This really hammers home the sheer danger of living inside your own constructed revisionist memory. Reality honestly doesn't care how you remember it.
is you keep navigating your life using a falsely rewritten map of your past, you are absolutely going to keep crashing into reality in your future.
Okay, so how do we fix this? Let's look at escaping this echo chamber and untangling our facts from our feelings. The good news is there are practical, actionable ways to break out of this cycle. Strategy number 1, track your predictions. Actually write them down before the outcomes happen. If you think a project is going to fail, document it right then and there. When you look back later, your own handwriting is going to stop your memory from cheating. Second strategy, seek out diverse perspectives. Go engage in discussions with people who hold totally different views to challenge your assumptions. And third, acknowledge uncertainty. Stay humble about the vast, chaotic unpredictability of the future. You don't have a crystal ball, and honestly, just accepting that fact is incredibly freeing.
Building on those actions, you also need a proactive mindset to manage this bias day in and day out. You have to focus on genuinely learning from events rather than just protecting your ego. Your ego desperately wants to shout, I knew it all along. But true growth comes from saying, wow, I actually didn't know that, and here's what I learned. Furthermore, you've got to constantly remind yourself that your memory right now is heavily influenced by your present perspective. Always, always question your own assumptions and check your thinking against objective reality. Which brings us to our final core concept. You are not your mind. Here's how to take back control. To truly step back from these automatic, tricky thoughts, we really need to internalize this ultimate takeaway. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who experiences them. When you buy into every single thought you have, when you mistake the stories your brain spins for your core identity, challenging your own memory feels like a literal threat to your survival. But your thoughts? They're just passing mental events. They are not you. Once you separate your true self from your mind's flawed revisionist storytelling, you unlock this immense power to observe your memory objectively without being completely controlled by it. So I want to leave you with a provocative question to chew on today. The very next time you catch yourself looking back at a past event and saying, oh yeah, I knew it all along, I want you to stop and ask yourself, are you truly remembering objective reality, or is your brain just busy writing a better, more comfortable story for your ego? Keeping that single question in the back of your mind is absolutely your best defense against the trap of hindsight bias. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, keep questioning those assumptions.